Hey guys, what's going on? Steven back again, and I'm back with another 40K video from Warhammer. And the topic for today's video is, what is it really like to be a Chaos Space Marine? I gotta say, it's probably gotta be really shitty, you know? Being deformed, possessed, you get Chaos Gods that, don't give a shit about you. Your battle brothers probably don't give a shit about you either, I mean, they'd probably most likely kill you too. Do you really think Khorne's gonna give a shit if, one Khorne Chaos Space Marine goes and kills 10 other Khorne Chaos Space Marines? No. Oh, okay. Cool. Have a little blessing. There you go. Get some talons or something like that. Some wings. There you go. That was cool. You don't really think they give a shit about? No, of course not. So yeah, I can't see it really being any good. I mean, I'm sure there's probably going to be like some sort of upside to it, whatever that is. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know, doing impressive deeds like, killing 100 Space Marines in a single battle. Maybe that will, hey, I saw that. Okay. Let's give you some more little blessings and stuff like that. Have some talents, have some wings, have some claws and stuff like that, I don't know. Maybe there's that upside. I don't know, but I can't see it being really good. But anyways, let's find out. So let's get on to the video. Here we go. Such a goofy picture.
No matter where you live, life in the grimdark future of Warhammer 40K is pretty miserable.
Yep.
But there are some places that are far worse than others. And by far the worst place to live is the nightmare realm known as the Eye of Terror.
Right.
A wound in reality, where the physical and immaterial universes overlap. That was, fun fact, created when a bunch of space elves murder-banged a chaos god into existence. It's a place that's chock full of nightmare planets, hordes of demons, legions of heretics, cosmic horrors of every shape and form, and whatever the fuck-oliensis is. This is where the Chaos Space Marines reside.
I don't know what that is.
Carving out an existence in this nightmare realm is not an easy thing to do. So what does their life actually look like? How did they end up here in the first place, and what kind of horrible things are they forced to do in order to survive? Well, in this video, we're going to be getting to the bottom of that and a whole lot more by putting ourselves directly in the shoes of a Chaos Champion and following him throughout his career as he becomes a powerful warlord and slips further
Chaos
and further
Champion.
into
All right, so we got a little bit of
This video is going to be a little bit different than the other
leg
ones
up.
I've made in the past, as everything that we're going to talk about today actually comes from a single source, a random obscure post that was made 10 years ago on the website hammerandbolter.com in a thread titled Misconceptions About the Chaos Space Marines. And of all people, the person who left this post was Aaron Dymski-Bowden, one of Black Library's premier authors and an absolute expert in all things chaos. Now, I stumbled across this a few years ago, and it's always stuck out to me as one of the most insightful pieces of chaos media that exists. And I wanted to make it into a video so more people would hear what he had to say. I've left a link to the original post in the description of this video if you want to check it out for yourself. So with all that out of the way, let's find out what it's actually like to be a Chaos Space Marine. But first, I'm just gonna be honest with you, I got bills to pay. So a quick shout out to this video sponsor, and then we're gonna dive headfirst into the grimdark. Today's video is sponsored by Into the AM, makers of all of the dope graphic tees that you see in all of my videos. I wear these things just about every single day.
He's got some pretty cool models on his shelf.
That in addition to their designs looking absolutely awesome, they're also the comfiest shirts that I own.
Isn't that Marathi in the top left-hand corner next to Magnus?
And as a big fan of graphic tees, I can tell you that that's incredibly hard to find. There's nothing worse than when you have a favorite t-shirt and it gets all faded and shrinks in the wash. I've had some of my Into the AM shirts for almost 2 years now. Still to this day, haven't personally experienced any fading or shrinking at all. If you want to pick up some of these amazing shirts for yourself, but also want to save a bit of money, then you can take advantage of Into the AM's custom pack deals, where you can pick and choose any shirts that you want and bundle them together in order to save big.
I wonder if he's ever done a video that shows off all the models he's got on the shelves behind him. That'd be kind of cool.
Tees, polos, tanks, button-ups, or even underwear. And if you want to save even more, you can use my personal link in the description of this video.
Yeah, because what's
or
that
code
one in the,
Westhammer at
I don't know why I'm
checkout to save an
pointing
additional
at my screen,
10% off your entire
in the bottom
order.
right.
And remember, that code works
Right next to his
site-wide.
elbow
Now,
there.
personally, I like to go to their on-sale section
that one looks pretty
and then
interesting.
use my code on top of the discounts that are already there to get some pretty incredible deals. What can I say? I'm a savvy and frugal t-shirt fan. Go check out intotheam.com today and elevate your style. Click on the link in the description of this video or use code Westhammer at checkout to save 10% off your entire order. Big thanks to Into the AM for sponsoring this video.
It is the 14th year of the 31st millennium. The dreaded War Master Horus Lupercal and his army of traitors and heretics has made its way all the way to the gates of Terra. This includes you, a Wordbearer's champion known as Helican the Mourner. You co-lead a company of Marines within a Wordbearer's chapter known as the Sacred Phoenix, alongside your most trusted brother, Captain Villis, a man that you have fought beside for decades, and the two of you have saved each other's lives more often than you both care to count. You trust him more than anyone else you have ever known. Although you and your forces fought with all of your might, the Loyalists eventually emerged victorious. After the Emperor killed Horus, everything started to fall apart in quick succession. In order to survive, you and your men fled the planet, you and all of the other traitors eventually being pushed into exile within the Eye of Terror in an event known as the Scouring. A lot of time passes, first decades and then centuries. Things look pretty bleak, and resources and territory are scarce within this thrice-damned wound in reality. But you and Villis were never ones to give up that easily. Things have changed, and you and the men under your command have to do what needs to be done in order to survive. So you begin to prey upon the Sons of Horus. They took some of the biggest losses of all during the siege, and after having lost their Primarch, are now a broken shell of their former selves. They're an easy target.
So going after a weakened enemy,
as simply being done out of survival. It's either you or them. Maybe it's a desire for strength that motivates you, and they have ships, weapons, and resources that you can utilize. Or maybe it's something far more petty. Maybe you still hold a grudge. From your perspective, you would have won on Terra if it hadn't been for Horus's weakness. If his sons hadn't broken when he died, things would have been different. Maybe you blame the traitors' failure on their cowardice. You kill them and take their ships, their worlds, their fortresses, and their equipment. All of this has certainly expanded your power, but you realize that you're going to need allies. Your thoughts turn towards the Dark Mechanicum, as they have the only functioning Forge worlds within the Eye of Terror, and would make for some pretty powerful allies.
Makes sense.
Sometimes you make deals with them, whereas other times you invade their worlds for supplies. Sometimes the Dark Mechanicum breaks their oath to you, screwing you over in the process, because that particular forge got a better offer from a stronger warband. Or maybe they just secretly hated you all along and were just looking for an excuse to end your relationship. As time goes on, you raid the Imperium over and over, whether it be for supplies, slaves, or territory. Sometimes you do it simply out of the need for vengeance, or a desire to teach the unworthy servants of the Corpse Emperor the truth behind reality. Maybe you dedicate your raids to the glory of the Dark Gods. Maybe it's to humiliate a rival you lost a fight to long ago. Or maybe you do it because several of the aspiring champions and squad leaders under your command have been whispering behind your back. They're spreading rumors that you're weak and need to be replaced. You need to show your strength. Soldiers need victories. So you make alliances with warbands from other legions. Maybe it's to group up against a more serious enemy, or because you genuinely consider them your allies. Sometimes you break some of those promises you made, and maybe an opportunity presents itself where you realize it's better for you to just kill your former allies and take for yourself their territory, ships, and weapons. Whereas with other allies, you refuse to ever betray them. You have fought by their side through hell itself. You are God's damned brothers in arms, and you would die for them. Only for a few thousand years later, you end up killing them. Because you learn that they were planning to betray you first. A surprise attack was imminent.
Can't trust anyone.
To act. Only maybe that wasn't actually true. Maybe you had been deceived by a third party, a different warband leader, a demon, or another potential ally. But maybe they really were planning on attacking, and maybe they would have won, leaving you either dead in the dirt or having to retreat with half of your fleet and resources. This kind of thing happens a lot within the Eye of Terror. You feel like you're fighting warbands from other legions constantly. For every alliance that you forge, you end up having to fight half a dozen battles. But you aren't the only Wordbearers warband operating within the Eye, as sometimes you come into contact with other Wordbearer companies, chapters, or hosts that are pursuing their own agendas and waging their own wars. Sometimes you join up with them, you share news of the Legion's movements, and you view them as your blood brothers. But other times, it's not that simple. These Wordbearers worship a different cult and creed than you do.
Oh,
and
geez.
although you're both
Yep.
servants of chaos,
Different
the little differences
ideologies.
in your faith are causing a lot of friction.
Yep.
Just like how in the real world, every major religion has tons of splinter branches that sometimes come into conflict with one another. It is the same with the worship of chaos,
Of course.
simply on a much more massive scale. Maybe these Wordbearers rely too much on Tzeentch's sorcery for your tastes, using his gifts to peer into the future in order to win battles, and you think this makes them weak. Whereas they see your view that Khorne is actually an honorable and noble god as particularly deluded. Maybe you both view each other as taking your faith too far, or perhaps not far enough. You both have evidence that the other warband is weak. Maybe you attempt to work through your differences. You meet on neutral ground, and the discussion turns into an all-out firefight. Maybe you're able to reconcile
And a
those
betrayal
differences in the
begins
name
and
of
everything
your primer,
else.
and become brothers for the next 3,000 years, both answering each other's call for aid, and eventually even merging into a new host of two chapters bonded by absolute loyalty. Maybe this alliance will last for a year, or maybe until the end of time. During your time within the
Maybe.
Eye, there will
Never know.
sometimes be calls for aid from other Wordbearers chapters, and you will have to make a tough decision. Sometimes you set everything you were doing aside and immediately go to their aid, bringing everything you have to bear because it doesn't matter that they're from a different chapter. You're part of the same Legion, and
Right.
damn it, that matters to you.
Yeah.
However, other
Makes sense.
times you don't answer. You pretend like you never received the call because you realize if they get butchered, then swooping in to claim all of their territory and resources will be 1,000 times easier. So you instead sit and wait like a hungry vulture. Other times, you truly do want to help them, but the warp can be finicky, and its tides end up delaying you by several years. You show up too
Jesus.
late. And other
Several
times, you
years.
block the call as soon as you see who's sending it, because those guys are a bunch of oath breakers.
Send to
and heretics.
voicemail.
They were a nasty splinter faction, dangerously disloyal, and you wanted them dead anyways. Except maybe they don't end up getting slaughtered. Maybe they win that fight without you, and now they declare you as the Oathbreaker.
Yep.
And they tell all of the other Wordbearers warbands of your treachery. Now, it's not
Now
just
you just
them
made a lot
coming
more
after you,
enemies.
but a plethora of other Wordbearers hosts as well, unified in their hatred of you. You're a nasty splinter faction, dangerously disloyal, and you need to be destroyed. But maybe loyalty and your oaths meant something to you after all. Maybe you did go to their aid that day, but when you showed up, you found out that it was a Wordbearers chapter known as the Dark Maw, and they were fighting against a Death Guard chapter known as the Venomous Rune. And wouldn't you know it, you owe your allegiance to both sides. The only honorable thing to do would be to sit the fight out. Or maybe you do choose a side. Maybe you attack your own kind, throwing your lot in with the Venomous Rune as you have an oath of brotherhood
winning?
with them from a past campaign. You might not think much of the Death Guard warband's faith, their creeds, or their personal hygiene, but they are proven allies. They have fought by your side dozens of times in the past. From where you're standing, the alliances you forged in blood and fire during your time within the Eye of Terror are what ultimately matters to you. You just met the Dark Maw. They may be from the same Legion, but you don't owe them a damn thing.
Right.
Or maybe you do. Maybe you are ultimately loyal only to your bloodline, knowing that it will never fail you. So, although you take no joy in it, you aid the Dark Maw, and together you obliterate your former allies. Sometime later, tragedy strikes. Captain Villis, your oldest friend and co-leader of the chapter, is assassinated, leaving you the sole commander of the entire host. You find yourself suddenly a lot more powerful than you were yesterday, but also a lot more vulnerable.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
the aspiring champions within your ranks can smell your weakness. Now is the chance that they have been waiting for. They make their move. Rumors start spreading like wildfire throughout your fleet that you are unfit for duty. They point to all of the oaths that you have broken, to all of the battles that didn't go in your favor. There's a good portion of your warband that desires to replace you, and they don't really care if this slander is fact or fiction.
Yep.
But maybe all of this is just in your head. Maybe all of the choices that you have made have instilled a great deal of respect in the men that you lead into battle.
That's true.
And you're freaking out over glances and stilted conversations and spy
Paranoia.
reports for nothing. Either way, you can't take that risk. So you form an elite guard of 20 of your absolute best warriors, and you gift each and every one of them a suit of Terminator armor. But what if you can't trust them either? What if one of them is actually planning your assassination, and now all you've done is put them in the perfect place to carry out their grisly mission? You've basically just handed them your head on a silver platter.
Yeah,
you don't
pretty
have
much.
time to worry about that though. There is a mutiny coming. You know this to be true. The rumors are getting worse. The men are saying that the host is taking too many casualties, specifically because you're holding back your elite squads to protect you rather than teleporting them in for a precision strike. Is this true? Or is it that the ship is just so old and damaged that large portions of it are no longer working properly, including your teleporter arrays? Maybe
Could
your
be.
ship is becoming even more sentient as time goes on. At this point, it's
yeah.
basically alive and half a demon. Every minute it spends within the
That's
eye,
kinda
it
cool.
becomes harder and harder to control. So how do you fix this? Well, maybe you spend even more resources to gain access to an ancient tome full of sorceress techniques that will help you bind demons more successfully, thus staving off your fleet's mutation. Or maybe you decide that the secrets within your newly acquired journal would be better used controlling your rowdy crew. But you're just a fledgling sorcerer at this point, and you're not powerful enough to control everyone.
Right.
The rumors keep on gestating. Now your men think that you're over-reliant on magic to solve all of your problems. Is what they say true?
no winning.
No, of course it isn't. And
Doesn't
you shake
matter
away
what you
all
do.
feelings of doubt. You have to make things secure for your warband. How can your men not see that? Maybe some do, and maybe some others are still planning on killing you. A few more years go by. A Black Crusade is called. Maybe it's one of Abaddon's or another individual of great power. The campaign lasts for 24 years and covers battles on 30 worlds. At one
Jesus.
point during the crusade, you end up getting
24
attacked by an
years.
Emperor's Children warband. For the life of you, you can't remember ever doing anything to offend these guys. So why are they attacking? Maybe they think you're weak. Maybe those rumors that were circulating on your ship have spread far past your realm of influence and have started taking on a life of their own. Or maybe a different warband hired them as mercenaries to attack you. Who was it? Who hired them? Is this just the precursor to an even greater assault? Why weren't you informed of this?
I gotta say, Slanesh probably has like the creepiest pictures or fan art, whatever you want to call it, because that looks terrifying and badass all together. Like, that is some like Hellraiser level shit going on, because you can definitely tell his original face is just peeled off and he's got this other face attached to it. Yeah, this is just like terrifying and awesome, like, at the same time. Ugh. But yeah, it's pretty pretty interesting. Basically your paranoia would be all over the place. No matter what you do, someone's not going to be happy. Something's going to happen. Oh, you're doing too much of this. Don't like that, but we do. Oh, you're doing too much of this. Well, we don't like that, but we do. You didn't help these allies, but you helped these ones. But you've known these ones longer, but these ones here are part of your legion. It's like, no matter what you do, there is no right thing, And then if they do, send other war bands after you just to make it look, like, hey, look at this, like, the influence and stuff like that, has spread, and now other war bands from other legions and stuff like that are hearing about you, and now they're going after you. So yeah, the paranoia is going to be like off the chart.
How did you not see this coming? Your spy network didn't warn you of this attack. It came out of nowhere. Maybe your spies can't be trusted. Maybe you decide to have them all executed and replaced with new, more trustworthy spies. At one point during the crusade, You end up allying with a cabal of Thousand Sun sorcerers and their host of rubric marines. You combine all of your ships, resources, and manpower into an exceptional fighting force.
Okay.
And over the years, you develop an incredibly strong bond with them. Your loyalty forged in the crucible of war. Like you have been forced to do in the past, you could have betrayed them a dozen times over, but you don't. Further, you end up risking everything to save them on multiple occasions, and they do the same for you.
Okay.
Except maybe at one point you do decide to betray them in order to steal all of their sorceress lore. Maybe you slaughtered them to a man after they had been weakened from trying to help you. No one will ever know of this dark deed, and you get away with it cleanly, never hearing about the incident again. Except maybe 1,000 years later, the Thousand Suns come seeking revenge in full force to annihilate you. Or maybe it's a different Thousand Suns warband that approaches you. They offer you aid as payment for destroying their hated rivals. Maybe another Wordbearer's warband ends up paying the price for your treachery, the Thousand Suns wiping them out entirely, believing it was them who attacked and not you. Now after the crusade is over and you're back in the Eye of Terror, the Black Legion comes to your stronghold. They show up in force and offer you a choice. You and your host can wear the black and be folded into the Legion, or be destroyed. Maybe you refuse. Maybe you manage to negotiate peacefully, or maybe you have to run. Maybe you manage to escape, or maybe they catch you and this is where your journey ends. Your host is finally destroyed. Or maybe you do accept their offer. Maybe you and everyone under your command paints their armor black and is now officially part of the Black Legion. And maybe you absolutely despise it and are gearing up to eventually betray them. Or maybe you find it liberating and stick with it. Maybe you realize that other than the armor's paint scheme, nothing has really changed.
That's true.
Your warband is the same, your faith is the same, and you still have the same complicated relationships that you had before. This time it's with the Black Legion warbands rather than the Wordbearers from before. During the next Black Crusade, your host ends up joining with 2 other warbands, one from the World Leaders and one from the Death Guard. And between you and those factions' 2 other leaders, you are by far the strongest. Thus, you become the de facto leader of this triumvirate. And you weren't sure about this at first, but by the dark gods, what an amazing blessing this ends up being. Who would have ever thought that you would have both Khorne Berserkers and Plague Marines under your control?
Yeah, that's kind of
This
cool.
combined fighting force is truly a thing to be feared.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Except there's a problem. None of these factions actually get along with one another. Maybe you manage to keep them in line, despite fights constantly breaking out between the rank-and-file warriors. Maybe there's a constant clashing of faiths and mounting pressure from the other warband leaders who are trying to undermine you and take control for themselves. Or maybe you were never the leader at all. Maybe the Death Guard warband was far stronger to you, and it is the Plague Champion that is in charge. You view him as unfit to lead, so you start spreading rumors that he is weak and needs to be replaced. Whatever the case may be, the Triumvirate's reputation casts a long, dark shadow. Other warbands can't match you in size and begin to pay fealty, serve you, or simply flee whenever you enter their territory. Although this started as a simple alliance during a Black Crusade, it is now morphed into a legitimately powerful warband. Maybe it will last for the next 8,000 years as a ruthless and terrifying force of destruction that lays waste to its enemies and anyone that would dare stand in its way. Or maybe the whole thing falls apart in about a month or so.
Yeah.
You're alone again. After all of the fighting, the making and breaking of alliances, the mutinies, and the constant infighting, your forces have dwindled to a third of what they were at their peak. You need more men. In your studying of the ancient lore that you secured from the Thousand Suns many years ago, you've discovered a sorcerous way to breed new Space Marines. Maybe you do it yourself, or maybe you contract out the job to a fallen apothecary from a different legion. His skills are legendary, but he's also absolutely insane. Not to mention his asking price is high, a lost artifact on a demon world, or deep in the heart of the Imperium. Do you risk even more losses to pay his price? And maybe you do it. Maybe you go on a crusade of your own for this lost relic and lose even more men in the process.
And then he doesn't do it.
After you hand it over and he begins his work, you realize just how unreliable he truly is. He screws it all up, and now you're in an even worse position than you were before.
Because you lost all those men before.
Maybe the apothecary's good on his word. He's fully capable of doing this, but the sorceress method from before is a bust. This is going to have to be done the old-fashioned way, and he's going to need some raw materials. Gene Seed, and lots of it. In order to acquire this, you're going to have to go hunting for Space Marines. And
if
they're
you're already
not an
weakened,
easy target. They don't just sit around waiting to be attacked. So where do you find them? Do you target a loyalist world that is rarely defended? Do you lay an ambush for them out in the void, or do you lure them into a trap with a distress signal? Do you go hunting for loyalists, or do you prey upon your fellow Chaos Space Marines? How important is the purity of bloodline to you? Does it even matter?
That's true.
Do you start targeting warbands of the Word Bearers, or do you care if the Gene Seed comes from the Imperial Fists or the Ultramarines?
Right.
Maybe things just aren't going to work out with this apothecary. Maybe you need someone who's a bit more capable. And maybe you need to start cutting deals again with the Dark Mechanicum, a faction that is also devolved into countless city-states and independent worlds within the Eye.
And then you're going to be able to trust them, and they're going to be able to trust you.
Much the same way that the Chaos Space Marines do. Maybe you make a deal to protect their forges in exchange for them establishing Gene Seed and Marine production facilities for you.
Okay.
But what are you signing up for? A forge world within the Eye of Terror is a rare and valuable piece of territory. What happens if they get invaded by a force much larger than you and you can't protect them? Maybe you run and earn the eternal hatred of the local Mechanicum. Or maybe you get away clean. Maybe you decide to fight it out and suffer horrendous losses. Maybe you win easily and the allies of the destroyed warband end up coming after you in the future. Maybe you fight this war only to be completely annihilated.
So many like
with
what
a single
ifs.
ship and a couple of dozen Marines. And the Mechanicum, having also been severely injured in the fighting, can no longer follow through on their part of the deal. You've wasted a lot of time, ammunition, and Marine lives in a campaign that profited you nothing. You're not out of the game yet, though. You can call upon the members of your own bloodline and seek out Wordbearer territories in order to use their facilities to make new Marines. Maybe they welcome you with open arms. Maybe they see you as one of the best champions their legion has ever produced. Or maybe they cast you out.
Yeah.
Maybe they call you a traitor, a deceiver, an oath breaker. Or maybe you sinned against them in some other way that you had never even considered. Maybe after all of that, you get your Marines back up to fighting strength. But there's another problem. The Thrall army that serves you has mutated beyond usability. Or maybe they were lured away by another cult's faith. Or maybe they just ended up getting slaughtered in a particularly bad battle. Now you're massively underpowered in terms of traitor guard and human slaves.
And now you're weakened.
Do you raid a bunch of prison worlds? The slaves that you would pick up here would certainly be easy pickings, but they would be untrained.
Right.
Do you try to convert a guard regiment? Well, that would certainly be a better option, but it would require careful sedition work, and your only trusted co-leaders spending multiple years away from your warband to convert the human armies. Maybe you could send your less trusted underlings, but then
would it work?
Who would the humans end up serving?
Yeah.
Would they end up as an army secretly waiting to betray you? Maybe you go to the Black Legion. You sign a contract with them saying that you'll serve for a period of 66 years, and in exchange, they will teach your apothecaries and fleshsmiths the way of the Berserker surgery. Now you have Berserkers in your army. But what if another Wordbearer warband considers that a dangerous collusion with an enemy legion, even though up until this point you've been perfectly loyal, and you know other Wordbearers warbands who took the same deal? Now you have another fight on your hands. But what about that period of 66 years that you signed up for? What happens to your stronghold while you're away raiding the Imperium?
That's true.
Is it hidden well enough within the Eye of Terror? Maybe it is, but what if time and space distorts and its location is revealed? Do you leave a garrison of your best troops behind to defend it? Well, maybe you do, but then you're going to be taking to the battlefield without your best
troops.
Maybe you return and another warband has destroyed your base or occupied it for themselves. So now you have to begin a costly war in order to retake your own
maybe they've killed your
fortress.
best troops.
Maybe you let it go.
And now you lost your best
carry on
troops.
as a fleet-based warband, forever suffering a lack of resources compared to those with fully operational and well-supplied homeworlds. Maybe you go back to Sakaris, the Wordbearer's capital demon world, and end up as just another minor host using it as a base of operations. Now, instead of having your own world and your own garrison, you are one warband amongst hundreds, sharing and competing over territory. And if you thought you had problems before with grudges, oaths, betrayals, and future treacheries, all of those things are now magnified tenfold.
Because there's so many other ones.
You see warbands united only under the threat of violence by an intimidating commander. whereas other warbands, at least on the surface, seem to honestly be bound by brotherhood. And then your eyes fall upon the fleet of the host of the Shrieking Wound. You remember these guys all too well. They failed to come to your aid a few centuries ago and betrayed the Legion at the Battle of Zahere by taking too long to commit to the fight, constantly weighing their options rather than acting. Maybe they say the same thing about you. Tension is always rife, even between blood-bound allies. For glory in the eyes of the Legion's power players and in the eyes of the gods. Maybe you stay, maybe you go. Maybe. That's what it's like to be a Chaos Space Marine.
Ugh, jeez. No thanks. No thanks. That is, that's insane. It's like betrayal everywhere, paranoia. Yeah, that, that'd be insane. Well, he made alliances with these two, and now these two are fighting against each other. Well, you've known these guys longer, but these guys are part of your Legion. Who do you help? Which side do you help? Or do you not help? And then, both sides are not happy with you, because you didn't help either one of them. If you help one, and then the other one gets destroyed and stuff like that, well, now they're angry at you. And it's like, no matter what you do, there's no pleasing anyone, Yeah, that's just insane, to be a Chaos Space Marine. Or at least one in charge. If you're one in charge, that's even worse, because now you're making all the decisions, and everybody else, is looking to you, make the right decisions and stuff. Well, the people that's following you, maybe the choice that you made will be good for them and they approve, or maybe they disapprove of what you chose, or maybe it's split 50-50. It's just, ugh. Yeah, no way. I mean, at least Space Marines, you got your, more loyalty and stuff like that, But yeah, with Chaos Warbands and stuff, there is no real, what's the word? Like structure or anything like that, command or, I'm sure as compared to like Space Marines, like if, I don't know, one chapter is fighting against, orcs or something like that, and then another chapter, also comes to, their help and stuff like that. Well, maybe they only have like a sergeant or something like that, but the original chapter that's fighting, has a commander and stuff like that. All right, we're here. What do you want us to do? We're here to help. I'm sure that's probably how Space Marines probably, work. I'm sure it's probably not just, all right, you do your thing, we'll do our thing, we'll fight together. I'm sure they probably, work together like, all right, so you're in charge, cool, what do you want us to do? You want us to defend? You want us to attack? What do you want us to do? Cool. We're Chaos Warbands, well, I'm in charge, but these guys don't like these guys, but these guys might be stronger, but then, it's just like there's no real structure, which is insane. But yeah, being a Chaos Champion, Chaos Space Marine, Chaos Champion, that's actually a pretty interesting video. I might watch that one another time. Every type of Chaos Champion. Yeah, I'm gonna save that one for later. That one sounds interesting. But yeah, just being a Chaos Space Marine, oof. No thanks. But yeah, other than that, some really cool pictures and stuff. Like I said, that Slaanesh one is pretty terrifying. That's horrific. Damn. I wish, it really hasn't been too much real, recent grim dark stuff, It seems like everything that was grim dark is kind of in the past and stuff. So I don't know. I don't even know what's going on in the current lore right now. You know, what's going on with Vashtor and stuff like that? You know, last I heard there was like a fight and he ended up retreating and that was it. The Lion and Angron fought. What else is going on? You know, what's up? You know, what's the Lion still doing? And, you know, is he going to go back to Tara anytime soon? You know, him and Gilliman going to have a reunion? What's that going to be like? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But, yeah, other than that, pretty cool video and stuff like that. Be a Chaos Space Marine? No, thank you. Sounds like a shit life. Well, shittier, I'd probably say, than most, is my guess. But, yeah, anyways, other than that, yeah, pretty cool video. So, anyways, other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. That'd be awesome. Remember, feel free to subscribe to my channel. Follow me on social media. Links in the description box below. And, of course, leave me all your thoughts and comments. What do you guys think about the video? What do you think about life? Basically, being a Chaos Space Marine and stuff like that. Let me know. And, of course, if there's any other videos you guys want me to check out, let me know down below in the comments section or leave a link. And I'd be happy to check them out and do a video on them. So, other than that, just stick around. More videos are on the way. And I will see you guys next time.